dengue being designated as a high-risk area, it is a concern for the business community because it can affect tourism, it can affect people doing business here in our community, and there's so many small businesses that we want to make sure that everybody is supported and that business isn't threatened by this new designation. The Kona-Kohala Chamber of Commerce represents over 540 businesses in West Hawaii, and so anybody from, Kapa'au all the way down south to Kalai, any businesses that fall into that zone really are part of the chamber, and it's anybody who does business within West Hawaii. So even businesses on the east side of the island are members of the chamber. Well, we hope it doesn't impact tourism because I think a lot of the businesses have been very keen to communicate what's going on with the issue, and the cases for tourists getting dengue have been still low compared to the total number of cases. So I think it's important that everybody involved in tourism in our business community has communicated what they need to support dengue and make visitors feel welcome. The airport has taken means to have Fight the Bite signs as soon as you exit the airport. There's a lot of signage to tell visitors what to do. We are concerned that visitors will be nervous about coming to the island or to the islands, even local visitors. We've heard reports when dengue started that there were sports teams that didn't want to visit the island because they were worried. The cases for visitors have been really low, so people should not be scared to come and visit the islands if they already have plans to do so. So that's important to us. Business owners and the chamber is constantly in this monitoring phase to watch what's going on and see how they can make sure and communicate that dengue hopefully won't hurt business. Of course, we've heard stories about how it slowed business near Waipio Valley, and we don't want dengue to affect any business in our community, and it has started to affect businesses in different regions of the affected zones. And so if it is continuing to affect business, especially with this announcement yesterday, if this affects business here in Kona, of course the chamber is going to rally 110% of its effort to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure it doesn't affect business here.
A lot of people are feeling like the state should do more. Is that the opinion of the chamber?
So the chamber hasn't really taken a position on whether the state is doing everything it can to support our island and support dengue fever, but what we hope is that the state really understands that with this elevation of status of dengue fever, that the county and the state, if there needs to be more done, and the Department of Health, that they really provide more resources to do so. At this time, I can't say that there has been any failure, but if there is a need, please, if this additional warning can speak to our leaders at the state level and the county level, and there is a need to do more, please do more, because we want to make sure that this doesn't affect business, because a lot of people are nervous and worried, and it has started to affect some businesses in the community. But again, it's all kind of from one-to-one conversations with business, not necessarily on a larger scale of a community-wide concern. But the chamber is monitoring it, and we're really making sure that business isn't affected. And again, if it does, then we will be advocating to leadership at our state level to provide whatever is necessary to get it done.
This could be devastating to the economy if dengue continues. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so, the elevation of dengue fever is definitely critical, and although I haven't personally met anybody who has been affected, and there's still not a critical number of cases, the fact is, we do live on such a big island. That's why it's called the Big Island, and it's hard in such a rural place to be able to fully eradicate the dengue. But at the same time, I think the state needs to make sure and assist us with as much spraying as possible and do as much as possible to eradicate dengue. This issue's created national attention and national news and could get further to international attention, and we don't want it to affect visitors on our island, and we don't want more local people to get dengue. Fight the Bite is a great way to get that information out there. You know, we hear it on the radio all the time, but is everybody getting the message of local citizens on how to protect themselves, and is spraying happening everywhere it needs to? I can attest to that, but whatever needs to be done to eradicate it is of top priority, because we don't want this to get any worse than it already is. And I hear anecdotal comments all the time about how people are worried about it. But again, you know, the worry level kind of goes up and down during different times ever since dengue has started.
Do you think most visitors are aware of the outbreak before they come to the Big Island?
So some visitors are aware of dengue before they come, because they've heard it in national news, or as they're doing maybe research about visiting, because the Chamber of Commerce gets calls from visitors all the time, every day actually, to ask for advice on visiting and different things. And you know, when it first hit national news attention, we were getting calls about dengue and asked if visitors are safe while they're here. And so we communicated, yes, they're safe if they take the precautionary measures to understand what they should and should not do to protect themselves against dengue. Because again, we can't predict who will get it and who will not. It's a mosquito. Mosquitoes bite everybody in the community. So what can we do to manage the risk efficiently? So we've communicated to visitors that it is safe to visit, and they should visit, but they should take the precautions that the CDC has recommended and follow those guidelines to protect themselves. And again, the number of visitors who have gotten dengue is still a very low number on the percentage of the whole number of cases being reported.
Well, as I walk around Kona, I see everybody in their shorts and their bathing suits. I don't see a lot of long pants and long sleeves. That was the recommendation from the Department of Health. It seems fairly impractical to me to tell people on vacation in a hot climate to wear those kind of clothes. Do you notice the same thing?
Actually, yeah, that's one thing that I haven't noticed a change with guidance of how to protect yourself from dengue fever, is that clothing and wearing long sleeve clothing to cover as much skin as possible was recommended. Again, living in Hawaii or visiting Hawaii, especially visitors, this is probably really hot and humid weather for them, even though it's a little cooler for the folks that live here right now. But that is only one of the measures that people have been told to take. So we don't know if, hopefully, they're using bug repellent if they are having exposed skin, and hopefully they're doing that, because that is also one of the recommendations.
Kailua Kona is a major tourist destination, and now it has this, well, we call it the red blob on the DOH map, saying, you know, this is a high risk area for dengue. It's got to have some impact on the public.
Well, you know, it's hard to communicate what that impact, you know, we can talk about what dengue fever and those impacts have happened since the start of it, but, you know, the red blob just happened less than 24 hours ago that the public was notified. So I haven't gotten enough feedback from the business community on what the reaction is. I think in like 2 days or so, we'll have a lot more information of what people are feeling and if they're worried. But at this point, the anecdotal feedback is a lot of concern. At the same time, I think we haven't heard enough information locally as to, okay, now that it's elevated, what needs to happen with the Department of Health? Who do we need to talk to make sure needs are being met by the state, if they are being met, and what support systems they need to make sure this is completed? Again, a lot of legislators and leaders on our island are making sure that dengue doesn't further expand and that we attack it right away, but there's a lot of moving parts to get that done. And so again, until the chamber has more guidance on that, and hearing back from our legislators, hearing back from the Department of Health, which we've tried to kind of reach out to some of them today, we just don't know what we can do in the next steps to fight it. We know we need to, and we want to be there as a support to the community and to advocate for the businesses here. But at this point, it's just, we're worried, but we don't know what those steps are to take to really fight for our community to make sure this is eradicated. we want dengue to be eradicated as soon as possible. And with this new red blob level that Kailua Kona has found itself in, again, we just haven't heard what the state is doing or not doing now that this level has been elevated, and if we need to advocate for action. So, until we hear more information, it's really hard to say that there's been failure on anybody's part to fight the bite and stop dengue. So, we're all in support to get it done as soon as possible, and we hope whoever needs to get that done will do it. So if we need to advocate to our legislators, when we hear more information and we see that there are more needs, then we will do so as soon as possible, because we're here to fight for the business community. Well, we never want to scare anyone away from visiting the islands. I think it's important that we tell them of the warnings, but I honestly don't think personally, and this is not a chamber opinion, my opinion personally is that I've traveled all over the world where there's been a possibility for different types of illnesses like dengue. And when you travel and you see those warning signs, you know that you take the safety precautions not to have that happen to you. And so compared to other places in the world that have way worse situations, I wouldn't say we're in a position to tell visitors not to visit. I think it's a very safe place, and people visit places that have malaria, Japanese encephalitis, all different kinds of things that are much more harmful than dengue. And that's not to say that dengue is not something we should just brush under the table, but I don't think it's something that we should ever say visitors shouldn't come here because of that. We do need to address it so visitors don't have to even worry about this situation. But at the same time, we need to tell visitors that, yes, it's here, but you can take safety precautions. And again, the dengue cases show that visitors are such a small population of getting dengue than people that live here on island. The thing I wanted to encourage our state leaders, Department of Health, and anyone that is helping assist with fighting the bite and eradicating dengue here, not only in Kailua Kona, but on our island in its entirety, is that, there's been cases of successful opportunities that other countries like Australia, Puerto Rico, of cases of being able to eradicate and stop it, or new technologies that can assist in that process. So I hope that our state has done its research to look at those and see if that would work for our island, and really just moving forward to find a solution and a cure as soon as possible so that this stops, because we don't want people to be scared to visit Kailua Kona or to visit the Hawaii Island as a whole. It's one of the best islands to visit. It's warm, it's welcoming. It's one of the most unique places in the world with all the diverse ecosystems. So we want everyone to feel like this place is a welcoming environment, not only to visit, but to call home and be proud that we live here on this island. And so we hope there's a solution as soon as possible.